Good evening. Before we get started this evening, Bruce Norquist, our planning director, has a few words he wants to say, and then we'll get the meeting started. Go ahead, Bruce.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, last Thursday night, the City Council selected a new planning commissioner to fill the spot that Tim Burke retired from recently. And as you know, I had Tim Burke stand up here with me when I was wishing him the best. And so I've asked Mr. Jeff Pruitt to come up and just stand with me. He can do, I don't know Jeff that well, so he can do more, but I want to formally introduce him to you. And he had prepared a bio that I was going to read, which I'm very impressed with, so I just wanted to share it with you and the viewing audience. Jeff Pruitt is a Senior Vice President of Construction and a member of the executive team at Fabcon Precast, a manufacturer and building erector specializing in precast products with 7 manufacturing facilities across 6 states and yearly sales of over $500 million. During his 22-year tenure with Fabcon, he has held several positions and currently oversees the construction operations team consisting of 30-plus project managers, along with over 35 erection crews that construct more than 400 buildings each year across the country, including Canada. Mr. Pruitt brings a compassionate approach to resolving issues and has a proven track record at leading teams to successful outcomes. Originally from Bloomington, Indiana, Mr. Pruitt is a graduate of Ball State University and has been a resident of Apple Valley along with his wife and 2 daughters since 2007. Give one more greeting to Mr. Pruitt before we start the meeting. And I understand he'll be doing his oath in the next week or 2. He's going to schedule that with Pam Gaxtetter. And there were 4 candidates. So let me see. And Jeff was selected. So let's welcome Jeff.
Thank you. I look forward to working with everyone here on the team and supporting the city of Apple Valley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Jeff. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
We do have a couple more items, but I'll take your lead.
Okay. With that said, why don't we go ahead and open the Planning Commission meeting for the City of Apple Valley for May 4th, 2020. First order of business will be the agenda, and does staff have any changes?
Mr. Chair, there are 2 items I wanted to point out that were added to you and are at your seats. One concerns the public hearing item 4A, the Apple Valley Commerce Second Edition. And you have a series of images that were added, and I think Kathy is going to share them electronically as well when she does her presentation. But just wanted to share a set because it really captures the treatments and what's trying to be presented by Scannell as part of their public hearing materials. Second, you have one additional item at number 6 for the 5A Apple Ford Lincoln redevelopment. And if you focus on number 6, it's speaking to a license agreement that is tied to how Gardenia Avenue and vehicle displays will occur. And so those actions apply to both the conditional use permit for outdoor sales and storage of motor vehicles and the site plan review and building permit authorization for same. So I just wanted to know that you had those additional materials. We've placed the copies of the same materials in the public folder that's sitting on the back table.
Okay.
With that, those are my only changes to the agenda.
Thank you, Bruce. Before we go on and approve the agenda. I just wanted to welcome everybody. And due to the pandemic, the commission will continue to offer virtual and in-person participation at tonight's meeting. I'd like to welcome our in-person and virtual audience to the meeting and make a brief audience announcement. If you're in person, when you name, please come forward and approach the podium and address the commission directly. And virtual audience, during the meeting, if you have any questions or comments, please submit them to the meeting organizer, and the organizer will forward them to the Planning Commission. With that said, we can move on to complete the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Motioned by Schindler and second by Sandal. What is the, those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed, nay? That passes. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. These are items that are considered routine and will be enacted with a single motion unless a commissioner requires it to be pull an item. Commissioners, are there any items you wish to pull this evening? If not, could I have a motion, please?
Move to approve?
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Sandal and Mahone for seconding. And your approval?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Aye. That's complete. The first item on tonight's public hearing is item 4A. I will open the public hearing. We'll open the public hearing for item 4A. The affidavit for publication for notice of public hearing is available for inspection in the Planning Department. Everybody wishing to speak at this public hearing should be sure to fill out the audience roster, or if virtual, register with the meeting organizer. Include name, address, so that the accurate records can be maintained. We'll begin the procedure with a brief presentation by city staff, followed by a presentation by the petitioner of the hearing. Upon the conclusion of the participation of city staff, will be asked to comment on the proposal and conformance with pertinent regulations and policies. After that, comments will be taken from the public. Kathy?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Skinnell Properties, number 281, and Menard, Inc. are the petitioners for this request. Skinnell Properties, number 281, owns the 8.4-acre property right on the corner of Johnny Cake Ridge Road and 147th Street. In 2020 and then again in 2021, they received approval for a development to be able to construct a 117,000 square foot flex industrial building. And so with the spec, with the idea that they would be able to build out individual suites as they lined up tenants. Well, it turned out that they located a single tenant who wanted the whole building, and in fact are requesting to be able to have additional room on the site to be able to store vehicles, delivery vehicles on site. So the 21-acre property, they contacted their neighbor, Menard, and worked out a deal. And so that's what brings us here this evening. So Skinnell worked with Menard and to create 3 properties, kind of reconfigure so that they could increase the size of their property from 8 acres to 16 acres, and then kind of reconfigure everything else. So with that, then tonight they are requesting a public hearing to consider a subdivision by preliminary plat, zoning amendments to align the zoning districts with the new property lines. So as those shift, the zoning boundaries need to shift. A conditional use permit for outdoor storage of delivery vehicles, and then site plan review building permit authorization for a 117,600 square foot industrial warehouse building. The comprehensive plan guides the 3 parcels, the subject site for IND, industrial uses. The proposed use is consistent with the guiding. And this map shows the existing zoning on the property today and then what's being proposed with the rezoning. If you follow kind of the boundary lines, the Skinnell property is zoned I2, while the property to the south owned by Menard is PD 1053, 1063, PD. And then there is an outlot then to the west. So the proposal then would be the entire Skinnell site would be under an I2 zoning. The Menard property would keep its PD zoning. And then they do plan to do a 3rd lot, which would be an outlot for a drainage and retention area. There's a question about where, what that zoning will be, whether it'll fall under I2 or because it's going to be dedicated to the city, whether it might go to P institutional. So in terms of existing conditions, the 8.4 acre site, the Planning Commission is probably pretty familiar with it. As you will remember, the site did receive state funding for cleanup. The site is the former location of a scrap concrete landfill. So they received funding through deed to clean out the old concrete debris and then backfill the property to make it ready for development. In terms of removals, nothing much there to report. The site is disturbed, reclaimed. The one thing that will need to be done will be they are showing shifting the existing access point to the south. So here are the 3 lots then. Again, the Skinnell property going to 16 acres, the Menard property would be 3 acres, and then the outlot for the drainage area would be 1.8 acres. The site plan then shows the layout of the building on the site. It's very similar to what was previously approved. Same, almost identically same size building, but the building has been shifted to the west. And then Skinnell will be picking up or developing using the former outlot as a developable parcel. The front of the building will face north, and that will be the employee customer area. And then on the south side of the site will be the area that's requested to have the conditional use permit. That will be for delivery trucks and semi-truck storage. The access to the site, again, remains the same, 147th, Fernando, only shifted south. There is a maintenance building shown for the trucks, so a truck maintenance building of 3,400 square feet. So that adds something to the site. Because the storage area will be visible from adjacent roadways. Extensive screening is being done, especially on the east side of the building near Johnny Cake, because there are dock doors. And then to the south, although it doesn't immediately face public right-of-way, technically, they are showing berming and landscaping to address that. The grading plan, grading, drainage, water, sewer plans have been reviewed by the city engineering staff. No significant outstanding issues, kind of more detail level, kind of construction level comments at this point. Water, sanitary sewer, same thing. Again, the building has had an initial design, so this is kind of a repeat or a look again at a former layout. And then storm sewer. Storm sewer would be set up so that all site drainage then would drain to the retention basin, again, to be dedicated to the city. The city code requires that any, the landscape plantings in the landscape plan be valued at 1.5% of the value of construction of the building. Natural Resources staff have looked at it, and they note that the petitioners are over, probably well above the requirement, and that is to ensure adequate screening of the doors and door areas. Now, one of the things that's peculiar to this project, the city code requires that with parking lots of over 25 spaces, landscaped islands must be installed at a rate of 2% of the area of the parking lots. So the petitioner is willing to do that, but the other piece of the island requirement is that you are required to install 2.5-inch caliper trees within those landscape islands. The petitioner states that they are concerned about the trees. The petitioner is a prepackaged snack food company, I think is the best way to describe it. So because they're dealing with food, they're concerned that having trees in the parking lot islands would encourage birds to nest, and birds would negatively impact their operation. The floor plan then shows the layout of the building. Right now, they're showing a 10,500 square foot office area, staff area, offices, break room, training, and then the rest of the building is open warehouse. The business is dealing with distributing, so packages would be brought to this building and then distributed out to retail areas. Exterior elevations, 40-foot vertical panels are shown as a decorative vertical element along the facade, and then two-tone concrete tip-up panels are shown, 37 feet, so there's a 3-foot relief there. You can see the loading dock doors on the east elevation and then the south elevation. So that's where the screening and berming and landscaping is going to be really critical. The maintenance building would be required to complement the exterior of the primary building. Right now, it's shown as just a single solid color. We'll be working with the petitioner to kind of work. They could pick that up a little bit and dress it up, make it look a little bit better and match the building a little bit better. So that's kind of a real high-level, quick overview of the project. And we're just recommending tonight opening the public hearing, receiving comments, and closing the public hearing. And with that, I could stand for questions.
Okay.
Kathy?
Schindler, go ahead.
Mr. Chair? You had mentioned some area for expansion, potentially, or did you not?
I don't believe that I did.
Okay.
Was that just for the expansion of the parking from previous? Maybe.
That could be, yes. Yeah, that the project really is, so the layout is, the building gets a little bit shorter and moves to the west, but otherwise then the only real change to the site is the addition, the extension of adding the parking area.
Because I noticed a lot of the plantings are on the north and the east side, and there doesn't seem to be anything on the west side. I'm just wondering,
On the west,
Yeah.
oh, here,
yeah,
yeah,
is that by design?
that's a good observation, and it's something that we will ask about. I think basically what they've done is they've prioritized. So, but
Screening the dock doors primarily?
yes, yep,
Gotcha.
yep. But that could be looked at.
Mr. Chair, Kathy, I just want to echo what you said about the maintenance building, that, yeah, I think maybe some of those decorative panels or something to, so I'm on board with you on that one.
Okay,
And then I don't understand the issue with birds in the parking lot. There's going to be birds around, like, I think I would need a little more information about that one.
we have asked for additional information. With all the food providers, we have grocery across the street, Abdallah Candy. We've never heard of this as a concern before. So one of the points is the required number of trees is 53. Would the city be open to a variance that would allow them to maybe shift the trees over to help with the screening? Maybe there's a good solution that way. But yeah, we would need more information. We'll ask for that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, when the commissioners finish their questions, I realize I'm in control of the additional images, and I didn't know if you wanted to share them this evening or not?
The petitioner will show.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you.
I had a question for you, Kathy. And I think I probably I have my own answer, but with the shift of the building to the west, and I imagine is it for the flow of the truck traffic? And I guess maybe that's a petitioner's response that by shifting it, that we're causing the need for all this additional screening, but it's just the circumstances of the piece of property and the shape of it that is driving the final location and so forth that we're dealing with here this evening.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, and the other thing that's coming into play is that the city code says if a loading dock faces a public street, it, along with maneuvering, has to be a minimum of 100 feet. So that means they've got to do a significant setback and create a 40-foot minimum bermed area for landscaping. So that's, by doing that, the other constraint they have on the site is Great River Energy has,
That's right.
yes, has overhead power lines, so they have to scooch everything west to get out of that as well.
Yeah, and then additionally, I like to see some additional landscaping balanced out on the full property towards the west also. So, and I think it might be helpful if we had some like street views to be able to see some of the effects of the, the loading dock and what the screening will look like.
Sure.
How that'll be handled. I think that in that area, I mean, the existing property owners have done a good job with varying their landscape and using different plantings and so forth, and it's really, balanced out and created the screening that the city likes to see and examples of that. So.
Sure. And Mr. Chair, the drawings that you have in front of you do show some renderings, some street views. The petitioner will present those in a little more detail. The city engineer was a little bit concerned that there's some perspectives that seem to show prairie, wild areas, so there's more detail that needs to be worked through. But it gives you the sense of the privacy screening, berming, landscaping. That's showing that treatment. I think one thing that we will want to see too, that we will ask for, is cross-section drawings. So that helps us to be able to see the elevation and then the trees and the building height and kind of look at all of that together. So we will look for that.
Okay, thank you. Do we have-
Anything else for me?
I'm good unless any of the other commissioners had anything at this point. So
Okay.
we have the petitioner next.
And Mr. Chair, while they're coming up, and I'm loading that item, I just wanted to point out that in my copy, and it could have just been a gift to me, I ended up with a copy of the building official memo and the engineering memo for the Ford property is attached to my final package materials.
There's a paragraph that's a holdover from Ford, but I think if you look through it.
Oh, Ford has all its materials, but the memos were duplicated in the Scannell
Oh, yes.
materials. And I'm just clarifying that we're not imposing the Ford requirements onto Scannell. And Kathy just found it as well. So I didn't make it up. I just don't want it part of the public record because it was inadvertently put in the processing. It got added to the Scannell materials. That's all.
Thank you, Bruce.
Okay. Hold on here. As you guys walk up, I can do everything, and I'm close to doing it. There you go.
Evening, Commissioners. Michael Kinzemi, Scannell Properties, 294 East Grove Lane, Wayzata, Minnesota. Kathy did an excellent job of kind of explaining the project, so a lot of the details were explained. 117,600 square feet, 5,000 square feet of office, the remainder being warehouse. As you've seen by the drawings, we've already begun to lay out the office space and the tenants that will be occupied within that space. We have 44 total dock doors, 1 drive-in door. The parking area will include 74 trucks. We're a little bit shorter, about 40-foot stalls, and then 78 trailer stalls, which are about 50-foot stall or lengths. I know, Kathy, again, nailed some of the points to the project. I guess regarding some questions that were maybe still outstanding on the landscaping side, on the west side of the property, understood, and we kind of hear your opinion there. The reason we don't have as much landscaping to the northwest of the property is because we have the option, I guess, of future auto parking stalls for the office space. So that's why we haven't included it yet. Again, that is future. Not sure if the tenant is going to go down that road, but that's kind of the intent of the design. And then regarding the vegetation within the parking area, so this is an email that I recently got from the tenant. Regarding their request. So originally we had landscaping throughout the islands, and it was their specific request that we pull those. And I'll just read some of this, and I'd be happy to provide it afterwards. But the FDA Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA, was signed into law by President Obama 10 years ago and guides all the decisions of the tenants regarding food safety as a company. The major reason for their asks, slip and fall risks. In addition to it being unsanitary, bird droppings can be slippery, causing potential fall hazard for employees. Health code violations. Bird droppings are a violation of health codes and can potentially result in fines, legal action, or closures. Birds have been associated with over 60 different diseases, not even accounting for the avian flu. Property, product, and equipment damage. Bird droppings are acidic and can corrode paint, roofing materials, and fabrics, as well as soil products and packaging. Bird pecking and roosting can cause damage to structures, equipment, and wiring. Productivity loss, stopping to clean up bird droppings and nesting materials can be disruptive and costly. And kind of as a side, as a footer, he mentioned, as a consumer, the last thing you want to see is a bag of chips with bird droppings on that bag of chips. And obviously that has a huge effect on their brand. So that's, kind of tongue-in-cheek sort of comment. To your point about, birds will be all over the place, I totally agree. And the thought is, if we have the landscaping on the outsides of the property, the hope is that they will nest and, create their habitat in those trees rather than within the space and have, a home next to all the activity and next to all the product that'll be coming in and out of those doors. And hopefully, therefore, not enter into the building and create homes inside the building as well. Those were the major points I had to discuss tonight. Any questions from the board?
Commissioners?
Oh, thank you. Yes, the slides, yes. So, we put together a few renderings for your view. We've, fully understand.
The multiple lamps.
Oh,
Picture
that
if you're
works.
interested.
Oh, yeah, perfect, thank you. I can drive. So this is from 147th Street, kind of facing southeast. So here on the corner will be their main employee entrance. You'll see auto parking kind of spanning to the west, and then kind of cut off here, there will be more auto parking to the east. Or that would be, sorry, this is, let me try that again. This is east, and then there'll be more auto parking to the west. So this is a picture kind of facing southwest, kind of from more or less from the corner of Johnny Cake and 147th. You begin to see the fencing that will be around the truck court, as well as the beginning of the berming and landscaping, that the intent is to block views from Johnny Cake and 147th of the dock doors there. So this is kind of the money shot. The real intent of kind of our landscaping design is to block views from Johnny Cake to, the truck traffic in the back. We've worked through landscaping. We've, added different species that we think the city of Apple Valley will enjoy and appreciate. We've tried to, show the landscaping and try to hide the fencing as much as we can, even though that is we think it's a nice fencing that, has a nice opaque finish. But again, rather, show off the landscaping rather than a fence. Again, facing west, this would, kind of crossing over Johnny Cake, some additional trees and, that opaque fence that that'll kind of block views. So this is kind of the prairie field that Kathy mentioned. Our renderer hasn't, the person that put these drawings together hasn't seen the current state, so I think that was kind of his default. So we could work to address that and change that. But this is viewing north, kind of on the other side of the fence would be the truck parking area. And obviously beyond the prairie grass, you see the trees and additional landscaping. So this is down the sidewalk of Fernando. You have Menard to your left, to the west, and then you have our property directly north. Any further questions?
Could you bring up the initial picture that you had,
Yeah.
that like with the office entrance, please?
Can I? You said the initial, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess my initially looking at this is that if that is kind of the main entrance for focus with the office, is that I've seen with these type of buildings is to have maybe some additional glass or opening or focus to that area. That would be a comment that I would initially
Sure.
have by just looking at this, that adding some might be something to consider.
Yep, fair.
Commissioner Schindler?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There isn't a retail component to this, is there?
There is not.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Any of the commissioners have any questions or anything? Well, looks like we're kind of all good at this point, and we'll put it in Kathy's capable hands and working with you and moving forward.
Wonderful. Thanks for your time this
Oh,
evening.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll move into the public comment portion of the meeting. And if there's a person in person, please come to the podium, speak, and address all comments and questions to the chair. If you are joining us virtually or via phone, please submit your questions and comments to the meeting organizer. And is there anybody in the public tonight that'd like to speak?
Good afternoon, good evening, Chairman, Commission. Thanks for considering my comments. My name is Steve Hagedis. I'm with Abdella Candies. I think the only thing that strikes me is the amount of fencing involved, which we know why it's there and we want it there too to screen the vehicles. But I think we all know that if it's not done right, the screening itself can look worse than maybe what it's trying to screen. So a little curious about materials and continued maintenance of that as it deteriorates over time and how that's usually handled. So that's my concern, and ask that you address that a little closer.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else from the public here that would like to speak? If not, as a virtual organizer, is there anybody with questions?
Mr. Chair, there is no one who would like.
Thank you. With this portion of the public hearing complete, I'm going to close the public hearing. If there's no further comments, I've closed the public hearing. It is the policy of the Planning Commission not to act on an item the same night as the public hearing. The Planning Commission will weigh all comments and information received tonight in its deliberation at further meetings. The item will continue to appear on future Planning Commission agendas until the recommendation on the petition can be forwarded to the City Council. And with that, any questions that came up tonight will be addressed at the staff will take those and take a look at them, and we'll have answers for the next meeting when this comes forward. So, thank you. The next item is a land use item on number 5A, Apple Valley, Lincoln Mercury. And that's yours also, Kathy?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The petitioners for this item are Apple Ford Lincoln, Apple Valley, Gobranson Real Estate LLP, Apple Auto Properties. And they are requesting consideration of the two items, numbers 1 and 2, shown on the slide. Conditional use permit for outdoor sales and display of vehicles in connection with an auto dealership, and site plan review building permit authorization for a 22,000 square foot Lincoln dealership building. Separately and directly with the City Council, the petitioner is going through a process to request vacation of Gardenia Avenue and 151st Street, but that has changed, but we'll go into that a little bit later. Even though it's not part of the Planning Commission's consideration, it does impact the site plan, so we're kind of having to step together on it. So just so you're aware, that's kind of running in the background. So with that, the site is addressed at 7125 151st Street. And what we're showing here is originally the cul-de-sac for 151st was requested to terminate in about the middle of the site, and so that all of this area, Gardenia, and then the west part of 151st would be, hopefully, Lincoln wanted it as part of their property. But that is being reviewed and under discussion, so we'll talk about that more as we go. The City Council held a public hearing to consider the vacation at its March 10th meeting, and at that time, several of the utility companies, including the city, had concerns about vacating 151st Street because they have utilities within that area. So based on that feedback, the petitioners came back and they revised their vacation request so that now they only seek to vacate the northern part of Gardenia Avenue. And then the plan would be they would dedicate right-of-way to terminate the 151st Street cul-de-sac on the west side of the property. And that way, there would be no vacation requested of 151st Street. That is currently under discussion. We are working with the city attorney's office on kind of timing. And the fact that some utility companies do have services within the easement today. So we have to kind of work through some logistical issues with that. But we're ready to move forward with their planning piece tonight. So with that, the removals, this site is the former Auto Mall site and now is the Apple Collision and Glass property, 5 buildings. The buildings would all be removed. The parking would all be torn up. It's a complete remodel and redo of the property. So an overall site plan shows the new Lincoln property. When they first made application and when the Planning Commission reviewed this in February, there was kind of an emphasis on really connecting Lincoln with Ford, and then now they're thinking, well, maybe it would be better if it was a little more separated, so creating a separate identity. So that's what they're showing here. Again, with the cul-de-sac shifted to the west, the size of the building has remained the same. So we would move forward with that. One of the pieces before you this evening will be recommendations concerning the conditional use permit and site plan building permit authorization. As you can see, they are showing a display pad within the area of former Gardenia right-of-way. So that's why we're asking for the revision to the motion, just adding the point that they can't build that until the city vacates Gardenia. So it's kind of the timing thing. So site plan, not much has changed. Again, shifting the cul-de-sac to the west, one of the entrances was removed, but what the petitioner was able to do, the original plan called for 127 parking spaces on the site. The petitioner was concerned that if they moved the cul-de-sac all the way to the west, that they would lose parking. The city engineering staff worked with the design a little bit and helped them to be able to preserve. So 127 previously, 123 today. So they did a good job of retaining the parking that was needed. Access then from the northwest, from the internal parking lot, and then from the southeast, from 151st, so that'll be the main drive entrance. The grading plan has been revised, reviewed by city engineering staff. No significant outstanding issues. One thing to point out, and you'll see it again, is the stormwater retention area was shifted south, and stormwater retention or stormwater is being directed to services to the south. Which is a change from last time. Okay, here we go. And with the retention area, again, services are coming from the south. So the tricky thing with this vacation and timing is that we have heard back from the utility companies, and they state that they are prepared to relocate at the time of the redevelopment. So it's just a matter of kind of lining up all the timing for everyone. So the landscape plan was reviewed by natural resources staff. They had no outstanding issues. On this property, the landscape value would need to be a minimum of 2.5% of the value of construction of the building. One of the treatments that they are showing that is nice is showing some plantings along the west side of the cul-de-sac. Unfortunately, because that is city cul-de-sac, the city would have to maintain it, so we're suggesting they find another spot within their own property. City plowing will pretty much take care of that. Elevations then, and this was an item that was brought up at the public hearing. The elevations have been revised, and I thought, no, I guess not. All right, so they have been revised to address the concerns brought up by the Planning Commission at the public hearing. Additional windows were added, and kind of eyebrow, kind of roof treatments were added to help break up the facade of the building. They're using a mix of materials. This is from a view from the northeast with a lot of window glass to show the vehicles. This is from the northwest. And the service door, last time we reviewed this, there was a concern that that would be on the front facade, but it's pushed back. So that'll help to screen it. And then the door is actually pretty clear when it's down, so that'll be less visible. This is the view from the southwest. Unfortunately, the renderings do not show those eyebrow treatments, so that it's missing a little bit of help from that. But otherwise, the additional windows help to break up that facade. So with that, Mr. Chair, we are recommending approval of the project. And the list of recommendations before you adds the condition that I described for both the CUP and site plan review building permit authorization. So where the Planning Commission report that was originally delivered has 1 through 5 conditions, you'd be looking for 1 through 6. Or if you're following the screen, A through F. I hope that makes sense. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to stand for them.
Kathy, I had a question. Well, before, I'll wait. Does any of the commissioners have a question for Kathy? Commissioner Mahon, go ahead.
Chairman Scanlon. Kathy, I was just wondering, are there any renderings of that display pad? Is that that will be on the west side? I'm just kind of curious as to what that would look like and how that, I mean, I know that there are, that gets tied into the vacation of that street. But I was just curious what that would kind of look like and how, now that they're kind of going for a separation between the two properties, if that sort of facilitates that or enhances that separation. But that, so I'm just curious about that, but.
Yes, thank you. We've not asked for anything more specific than just to identify what the area is to allow them the most flexibility to stage and kind of do what they want with it. But we could ask the petitioner to comment on that.
Just kind of a follow-up too. And clearly this is their plan, so they must be satisfied with it. Just the ingress and egress from the property itself is interesting. With that road being vacated, with Gardenia Avenue being vacated, and the one entrance to the south, and then kind of going all the way up around to the northwest corner to get in. But if it works for them, I'm okay. It just seems a little different, I guess.
Yes. One of the options would have been to do some kind of access off of this corner. That's what they had previously. But by not doing that, they were able to save more parking because of the lot configuration. One of the things that they said in discussion was the front of the building will be on the north side. So this helps to kind of channelize people up to the north side of the building, the front. But that's another good question for the petitioner if you'd like to ask them.
Thank you.
In my follow-up, I was kind of looking at the same thing. My perspective was that the way it's set up, it looks like it's pretty tight, and I'm sure this has already been looked at for the fire department, as far as they're being able to have access to the property.
Yes. One of the conditions on the list of conditions is that they do need to manage any vehicle parking and storage so that there's circulation around the building.
Yeah,
That's an important-
one concern that I see is, with an auto dealer too, with vehicles, making sure that they're in the proper place in case of need of that type of services, so.
Sure.
Okay. With that said, does the petitioner have any additional comments?
Sure.
Please.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you. Thank you, Kathy and Bruce, for all the work on this. I know it's been, a lot of renditions have been through. So if you go back to the landscape plan, just to point out a couple of
okay.
things there.
Yeah, happy to.
Thank you. There is an entrance still off 151st through the back, but our thought around that was that, we typically have service vehicles and used cars in the back of the store, and so we'd rather have our customers drive up around to the front of it and see the, typically they're probably coming to the show floor, so that would be a better display for them. Separation also, it separates Lincoln and kind of elevates it, but also a unified campus is really great for us because we have so many employees and vehicles going back and forth, and currently crossing Gardenia now is a little bit of a hazard for them. There's no crosswalk, and so it will be safer, but it'll also kind of keep everyone in the same campus, and it should be better for the customer experience as well. What else? We're excited about the upgrade of the property. I think it's going to look really, really good. The other change, I guess, to the rendering was we eliminated the steps. There was a few steps up to the front door, and those were eliminated as a hazard, especially in snow and ice, is to make that just flat. So other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I think the team's done a great job, and we appreciate everyone working with us on moving that cul-de-sac, and just having primarily the vacation of Gardenia will allow that campus to really feel unified, and give us also just the security concerns and other things that really helps for the stores. So, thank you.
Do any commissioners have any questions? I'd just like to thank you for the upgrades you're doing. I think, like you mentioned, it's going to be a great addition to the city. And I think it kind of shows that the planning department and working with yourself, how that works in terms of, there were some challenges there with 151st Street and Gardenia and how that's going to work compared to what we originally looked at and what came about tonight. I think it,
Right.
Just shows it's a win-win for both parties. So it's great, and I appreciate the added design changes that you did, adding some more balance to the building from previous. So thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, we're good. Well, thank you. I think it'll work out well, and we'd also say for the record that birds are not good for cars, so we don't like them on our lots either, but that's maybe that display area with no trees. That's our reason, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So with that said, I will entertain, it looks like we have two different items to vote on here, and I'll entertain the commission's desire here.
I would make a motion to recommend approval of a conditional use permit for the outdoor sales and storage of motor vehicles in connection with an automobile dealership, subject to the 6 conditions that were listed on the staff report.
Okay, and could I have a second for that?
Second.
Okay. That was brought forward by Commissioner McComb and seconded by Commissioner Schindler. And those all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye, and opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and that portion moves forward. Then I will entertain for the second half here a motion.
I would also make a motion to recommend approval of the site plan review building permit authorization for the Apple Auto Lincoln dealership development at 7125 151st Street West, subject to compliance with all city codes and construction standards and the 7 conditions set forth in the staff paper.
Second.
I have recommendation by Commissioner McComb and then seconded by Schindler's. And what is the, those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed, nay. That also moves forward. That'll go onward to the city council. And I'm not sure when that might be, the next meeting or thereabouts, so.
We will be checking in with the petitioner on that.
All right, well, thank you. That completes land use items, and now we move on to other business in Group 6A. This is going to be a sketch plan review, and Tom has that this evening.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, what you have before you tonight is a sketch plan review for a proposed floor and decor building located at the current location of the Apple Valley Apple Valley Theater, located along the east side of County Road 23, Cedar Avenue, and west of Gaslight Drive. The property's comp plan guided for commercial and is zone plan development 507 zone 1. It's within a plan development that encompasses a large portion of the area located here, and as well as the Minnesota Valley Transit Park and Ride facility on the north side of 155th. Included in this plan development also is a Holiday gas station, convenience store operation, as well as Red Robin, and then the remnant of the old park and ride facility directly to the east, and then also Dakota County CDA has a senior campus located directly east of the movie theater. The proposed zoning amendments that they're looking to request is to allow for add building and sales store as a permitted use in this plan development in the zone 1, and then also increase the building coverage in zone 1 from 20% to 30%. The existing conditions, as you can see, it shows the multi-screen theater located at the south end. Everything north would be left on all of the drawings here, just for everyone's reference. And then they have a large parking lot field here, as well as an additional parking lot located just east of the Holiday Station and Red Robin Restaurant. There is a variety of easements contained within this property, everything from cross-access, cross-parking easements, drainage and utility easements, sidewalk and trail easements, sightline easements, sign easements, and so there are a lot of easements related to this, and once this item, if they decide to move forward with this, we'll have to take a look at those and make sure that everything they do is consistent with the easements that are already attached to this property, and if not, then looking at if they are looking to vacate any of these easements as part of their development. And that leads to this one, the demo plan, obviously remove the building. You can see where there's several trees that they would be removing, the sidewalk around the building, and also you see these red lines that kind of dash around here. That is a storm sewer line that would be removed. They would be relocating that as part of their development. And so that falls within an existing drainage and utility easement, so that likely would be looking at a vacation of that easement. At a minimum, that easement. This is the proposed site plan. The building, 80,000 square feet, rectangular building, which would run kind of north-south with some parking located along, additional parking located along the, or new parking along the north side of the building, and then also along the south side. This area here, this is an entrance into the site for the parking, as well as an existing entrance that would be located at this location. Then this would be the service area or loading and receiving dock located here. Likely the trucks would wrap around in this manner and then back in here. Other opportunity would be to come in here if they were to do that and then back in at this location. As they mentioned in their letter, there aren't a lot of, they aren't expecting a lot of trips. However, they mentioned that they would be overnight trips. They would be trips that would be done after hours. Currently, the plan development ordinance does not allow for that, so they cannot do it during after hours. It has to be done during the normal working or hours that the operation is open. The other thing that why this arrow is kind of pointed here is there is a concern from our city engineer about the location of that and potential conflict with the way the Gaslight Drive is striped along south of this because it goes into a major intersection, Gaslight Drive, into 157th Street, which is a collector street, and there are some concerns about that being so close as it's being the kind of the entrance into the front of the site from the south. And in fact, he is looking at, there is already an entrance located, I think, in this general direction or area, if I can go back. This one here that is in front of the existing theater, and he would propose that one stay, and then the one that's going to be over here be removed. They do have you can see they do have a entrance already as part of the theater, but that was just for trash pickup and things like that and deliveries, so it wasn't used a lot. So he's looking at that. Also, as part of this development, if this is to move forward, we would like to see a traffic study that does the basic items, distribution and number of trips, making a comparison also with how this compares, the new 80,000 square foot building would compare with the number of trips with the multi-screen theater. Obviously, you probably see a whole different type of movement there because you do have a lot of, afternoon screenings, but the majority of the screenings, probably where you see the majority of the traffic would be in the evenings and the weekends. How that relates to their operation is probably a little bit different, but we still like to see that comparison, and then also the distribution and where the traffic will be going, because as you move down to the south here, and if I can go back maybe to, let's see, there is residential down in this area as well as residential over here, so so you're going to see a lot of activity down here, and how the traffic moves at this location and is distributed along 157th would be important, because once you get up at this location here, this is a limited access, three-quarter access, so you're not going to get the full opportunity. Obviously, you can come in along here and get along the other way and get into this area, but this will probably be a large portion of the traffic would likely or may likely be at this location, and we like to know that so we can look at that and see if there are any changes or anything that need to be done to accommodate for that. Grading plan, again, it's already a flat site, pretty basic. They just would be grading it to accommodate the new proposed use. The one thing, as you can see, I put that rectangle there. That is a underground stormwater management system. Probably, I think, one of the biggest ones that we've seen in the city. That will require an agreement between the petitioner and the city for the construction and ongoing maintenance of that facility as it moves, if this project would move forward. Landscape plan, this would have to meet the 2.5% requirement for landscaping. As I show this, you can see the darker circles are the landscaping that will be installed as part of the development. And then also the lighter green, I emphasize that as being the location of existing landscaping or trees that would remain as part of the development. At least that's what they're proposing. I think there's opportunities for additional landscaping. We've not run the calculations because, again, this is just a sketch plan. on, does this meet that 2.5% requirement or not? But I think additional landscaping would be appropriate along the, at least at a minimum along the south side. It appears that there's a lot of landscaping that would exist along here, maybe an opportunity for some additional landscaping here, as well as along the front of the building. I know that the drawings that you had in front of you, or that was given as part of your packet, were pretty difficult to look at as far as the elevations. It just looked like a dark building, and couldn't tell you much about it. But so I was able to kind of get a clearer drawing to put on the screen here, and it kind of shows the changes. It will be a precast panel with a kind of a brick finish look to it. To be frank with you, if I could, that I thought that the building that Scannell was putting up was somewhat of a attractive building with a lot of different treatments to it. And I think this would be, would behoove the floor and decor people to kind of take a look at that and provide some opportunity or some difference in the looks. In particular, the looks along the, would be along Cedar Avenue, because as I stated in the report, this is kind of the main entrance into the city from the south, and we'd like to see a sharp-looking building at that location. And it just would help as you enter or leave the city to see a pretty good-looking building. Kind of sets a standard for what Apple Valley is hoping for. So, and as I said, that I think that the Scannell building had a lot of different treatments, a lot of different looks to it, and I think that's kind of when I was trying to emphasize or discuss in the report what we're trying to accomplish there. That kind of was what was trying to be accomplished. So, so with that, there is a representative from Floor and Decor, and he can answer any questions or go into any more detail, and I can take any questions if there are questions from the commission.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Tom before we get started?
Sure. Just a couple. I echo your sentiments regarding that rear elevation along Cedar. That looks pretty bleak in just the preliminary rendering here. How many what before and after in terms of the parking spaces? I know it's a completely different use of the property, but I'm just curious as to how much parking will be around and available with this proposal compared to what there is right now.
Well, we didn't get down and dirty into those details at this time, but again, it's a different type of use. The amount of parking is a lot lower as it relates for this type of use as a building sales kind of operation. And so the numbers are a lot lower than what you might see with just a general retail operation. I think it's, it's like 1 per 800 or something, like 800 square feet or something of that nature. I'd have to look at my notes here, but it's a lot lower. Does it meet that requirement? They do have that large field of parking already, that.
Up to the north there.
Yep, up to the north to allow for that. But, we all know that we're all going to try to park in this general location here. But again, how much activity, and that's what we'd like to see as part of the traffic analysis. How much activity are we seeing? How many trips are we seeing at certain times? And is the parking generally adequate in the area just to the north and to the east of the site? So
that's, I guess, kind of the concern that I have. I guess it's a little bit vague, at least to me, in terms of building materials sales store. What as we go forward, I'm sure we'll have a better sense of what type of tenant that would be and what type of business that would be. But with the larger building on the lot and the reduction of parking down the road, if there's a different use for this property, will they be hamstrung by the lack of parking for different uses down the road? Maybe that's going too far beyond what we're supposed to consider, but it just seems to me that it's an awful lot of building on the parcel on the site, I should say, and maybe that's sufficient for this proposed use. But are there other alternative uses for this type of building, this type of property, which will be precluded in the future if there is inadequate parking?
Well, I can't speak to what's likely permitted in there as far as any type of retail sales in the plan development. And as I am proposing as part of the, if we do amend the ordinance, it would be building sales and materials. So that would limit what could happen on this site. And within this plan development in Zone 1, limit to that. And that would then keep it, probably the numbers somewhat down. But of course, to echo your concern is that 80,000 square foot Lowe's or somebody like that decide to move in here, that probably would see maybe a generation of more traffic, because it obviously has, you have an opportunity to sell a larger variety of products, and not just the floor and decor material, floor materials and such at this location now. So yep, that could be a risk, but that's a risk that likely that the applicant has to take, that understanding that, well, if the use somehow goes away and now I've got some type of higher use retail operation, well, your parking may restrict that, where it may require that you have to either take and part of the property or part of the building would have to remain dormant, or you'd have to remove part of the building and try to equal out with additional parking to accommodate any type of higher use retail operation.
Those were my concerns, because it is, I guess, sort of pardon the pun with the previous use, a marquee property right there along Cedar.
Sure.
And so, thanks.
Commissioner Schindler.
Mr. Chair, Tom, is this, the way it's designed here, is this looking at a one-tenant use, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And they have started it, just maybe a backstory on it. I know that they have worked with another theater operation, I believe, in the metro area up in Maple Grove, purchased a theater up there, and are in the process of either receiving approvals or have received approvals for a floor and decor store at that location. So they're kind of bringing their, I don't think there are a lot of them in this general area, if there are any. So they're trying to bring this operation into the Twin City metro area.
Thank you.
Zendel.
Mr. Chair and Tom, I too have just a question about the parking. And maybe this is just with the cross easement, cross parking. I just know that Red Robin does not have enough parking on its own. And so is that just something that will be addressed? I don't think it does anyway, based on when I've been there. Is that something that's addressed with the cross?
Yes, because I think there will be, that's why we have to look back at the easements, because I think there is a relationship and an arrangement between the theater and Red Robin, and there may even be one with Minnesota Valley Transit and the theater about the use of parking. So that arrangement will have to be looked at to make sure that Red Robin still has what they need to address, the type of the amount of parking they need to address their needs during their operation. So, yeah, we'll have to look at that.
Okay. Two more questions. I don't totally understand why the front is not facing Cedar, and I'm sure that there's a good explanation for that, but I can't figure that out, because wouldn't you want to be able to see it from Cedar? I don't know. I'm sure there's a good explanation for that, but I'm...
Well, and maybe the applicant can answer that better, but I think because there is no ability to get off of Cedar Avenue, so it takes it around, and you have to use Gaslight Drive to gain access to the site, so that becomes the front of the building.
Okay.
You like that answer?
Not totally. I don't know.
Okay.
It just feels like you would want to, have the most visible access
Sure.
for people, but I'm sure that other smarter people than me know better. So I was just curious about that. And this is just, I hate seeing things just torn down and then rebuilt, and I get that it's a theater and it's going to be hard. It would be hard to do that. But it just kind of hurts my heart a little bit to see something just torn down and just replaced. I don't know.
Sure, and there's been other, I mean, we've been working with Anthony Properties that owns the theater on a variety over probably the last several years at least, with opportunities to reuse the theater or just reuse the land. And just the way the theater is built and the way it's constructed, it becomes a challenge to try to use it for something different. I mean, they have a lot of, it's separated with all the theaters. I think there's like 15 theaters in that complex, and with a lot of dividing walls and things like that, that may be load bearing, so it becomes an issue in trying to reuse that.
Sure, and I get that. Yeah.
You said the petitioners here, or the
Yep.
Floor and Decor?
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name is Alan Ketchpool with Kimley Horn Engineering here on behalf of CenterPoint. And like I said, we just got comments yesterday, so we're kind of taking all this in. We'll be reviewing staff and engineering comments and probably, like I said, coming back with a modified submittal to address the concerns. So we've looked at a traffic report, have it completed, and we'll include that in our next submittal.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
I guess before we close out on this, I guess give everybody an opportunity to go through it, and just if you have any additional comments, then I'll make mine at the end, and we're not
Mr.
looking at.
Chair.
Yes?
Mr. Chair, this is a sketch plan.
Right.
And so the commission cannot give feedback as to whether they approve, disapprove.
Correct. And
So-
that's what I was going to mention, and the fact that we're, if you had any additional comments, but without making whether you would approve or disapprove it as we go forward. Mr. Schindler?
Chair, Tom, my only comment is I just want to stress that, that rear elevation. I really think it's important that
Sure.
that's something that looks good and doesn't look like just the side of a building.
Commissioner Vaughn?
And my only comments would be just echoing what we talked about earlier. And as we move further along in the process, the use of the building, the occupant of the building, the business that would be there, I think that's going to inform issues with respect to both traffic study and parking and things like that. But and then again, the elevations need some work too, but I'm sure, again, we're very early in the process for that.
Okay. My comments that we looked at is, I'm kind of reiterate what has already been said, but the importance of, as we move forward here with this is, if they choose to move forward, is the importance of looking at the building in terms of the balanced architecture, four-sided, which is a requirement that we have in Apple Valley. The landscaping, you do see some challenges here as far as the lot size, and like you said, with other uses and so forth, and how we can make this work. I kind of question the drive around for the truck. I think appears that might have some challenges, especially in wintertime, with snow removal and so forth. And is that really the best way to move things around? So I guess I'd ask for take a look at that a little closer. But I think the big thing is just the overall building. Architectural elements are something to take a close look at, and I think we've shown with some of the other things here is it doesn't take a lot to be able to interject some of that into the structure and so forth. So
Sure.
And you can go along Cedar Avenue and see what we've done previously and how that fits in and the importance of Cedar Avenue and the construction of those buildings are. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
The next item we have is a review of upcoming schedule and updates. Bruce?
Mr. Chair, the next meeting of the Planning Commission will be Wednesday, May 18th at 7:00 PM. And the next council meeting, and I believe we're trying to schedule in advance the Ford Lincoln application to council for May 12th, and that is still being worked on. That, I got a head nod from Kathy, and but we're trying to be respectful of the review time, and the Planning Commission has come away supportive of the Lincoln proposal. The City Council also has to address the vacation application, so. Let's see. I think, maybe that's it. I ain't got nothing, so,
Thank you, Bruce.
sure.
And
Move we adjourn?
Second?
first by Schindler and then seconded by Combe, and all in favor indicate by aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we're adjourned.